Imagine this for a moment. An empire so powerful that it ruled a quarter of the world without conquering most of it with soldiers. No endless marching armies. No constant invasions. No non-stop wars on every frontier. Instead, ports, banks, contracts, and quiet signatures decided the fate of nations. What if the British Empire wasn't built by redcoats and cannons, but by ledgers, loans, and trade routes? So perfectly designed that countries walked into dependence willingly? Stay with me. Once you understand how Britain really ruled the world, you'll realize the most powerful empires don't always need armies at all. When people think of the British Empire, they imagine warships, colonies, and flags planted across distant lands. But that image hides the real mechanism of power. Britain didn't just conquer territory. It engineered a global financial system where money, trade, and credit did the fighting first. By the time soldiers ever appeared, resistance was already broken. Markets had been captured. Resources were locked in. And local rulers were trapped by debt. In the early days, Britain was not the strongest military power on earth. Spain, France, and the Ottoman Empire all had larger armies at different times. What Britain had instead was something far more dangerous, a financial mindset. British leaders understood that controlling how goods moved, how money flowed, and who financed growth was more powerful than controlling land by force. Trade became the weapon. Banking became the chain. At the center of this system was trust. Britain carefully built the reputation of being a safe place for money. Merchants knew their contracts would be enforced. Investors trusted that debts would be honored. Insurance firms protected ships and cargo. This trust attracted capital from all over Europe. While other empires spent fortunes maintaining massive armies, Britain let global money flow into London. That money didn't sit idle. It was recycled into trade, shipping, and loans that quietly expanded British influence. British banks didn't just lend money. They shaped behavior. A port financed by British credit would trade in British goods. A railway built with British capital would transport raw materials straight to British factories. Local economies became dependent without fully realizing it. No invasion was needed. Once trade patterns were set, breaking free became nearly impossible. Within the first minute, let me say this clearly. If you enjoy deep stories about hidden power, money, and the systems that secretly shape history, take a second to like this video and subscribe to BioForge. It helps the channel grow, and it tells the algorithm this is the content you want more of. Now let's go deeper. One of Britain's smartest moves was separating profit from direct rule. Instead of governing every region directly, Britain often let local leaders stay in place. Kings, princes, and elites kept their titles, but their economies were rewired. British trading companies gained exclusive rights. British banks handled major transactions. British shipping controlled exports and imports. The locals ruled on paper, but the money answered to London. This system created an illusion of independence. Countries believed they were sovereign while their wealth quietly flowed outward. Taxes paid local rulers. Profits paid Britain. And when problems arose, loans filled the gap. Those loans came with conditions. Favor British trade. Open ports. Lower tariffs. Accept advisors. Every loan tightened the grip. The genius of this system was that it felt voluntary. No one likes being conquered by force. But trade deals, investment, development, those sound like opportunity. Britain marketed itself not as a conqueror, but as a partner. Behind the friendly handshakes, contracts ensured long-term dependence. Shipping was another silent weapon. Britain built the world's most advanced merchant fleet. Whoever controls shipping controls prices, supply, and timing. British ships carried not just British goods, but global trade itself. Even rival nations relied on British shipping networks. This meant Britain could influence markets without firing a shot. A delay here, a reroute there. Entire economies could feel pressure overnight. Insurance completed the trap. British insurers decided which voyages were safe and which were risky. If your goods weren't insured, banks wouldn't finance them. If banks wouldn't finance them, trade stopped. Britain didn't need to ban trade. It could simply make it too risky to continue without British approval. Over time, London became the financial heart of the world. Prices were set there. Credit was approved there. Risk was calculated there. Empires with larger armies found themselves reacting to decisions made in British offices thousands of miles away. That is real power. Even wars were financed this way. Britain often avoided long, expensive land wars by funding allies instead. Loans flowed to friendly states. Weapons were purchased. Armies marched. Britain paid money while others paid blood. If the war was won, Britain gained influence and favorable trade terms. If it was lost, the debt still remained. Either way, Britain benefited. This strategy allowed Britain to punch far above its military weight. It didn't need the largest army, because it could decide who had money to build one. It didn't need to occupy every land, because it controlled how those lands earned revenue. The empire ran on balance sheets, not battlefields. What made this system even stronger was how early Britain understood globalization. Long before the word existed, Britain connected continents through trade. Raw materials flowed in. Finished goods flowed out. Profits accumulated at the center. Peripheral economies stayed locked into supplying resources while buying manufactured products at higher prices. Growth happened, but it happened unevenly, always favoring the core. Breaking free from this system was incredibly difficult. Countries that tried to industrialize independently often found themselves blocked by lack of credit, access, or shipping. Without British cooperation, costs skyrocketed. Many gave up and returned to dependence. Those who resisted faced economic isolation long before military pressure. This is why the British Empire lasted so long. It wasn't constantly fighting rebellions everywhere. In many places, people didn't even realize they were under control. The system felt normal. Trade patterns felt natural. Financial dependence felt like the cost of doing business. But no system lasts forever. Over time, cracks began to form. Competitors learned the same tricks. Industrial rivals emerged. Wars became too large and too expensive to finance endlessly. The financial machine that once powered dominance began to strain under its own weight. When global conflicts erupted on an unprecedented scale, Britain was forced to spend rather than lend. Debt replaced credit. The center weakened. Slowly, quietly, the system reversed. The same financial tools that once ruled the world began to expose Britain's limits. Yet the lesson remains. Power does not always wear a uniform. Sometimes it wears a suit. Sometimes it speaks in interest rates instead of orders. Sometimes it conquers by invitation rather than invasion. If this story changed how you see empires, power, and history, make sure to like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts, and share it with someone who loves deep, hidden stories like this. It really helps Bioforge reach more curious minds. The most dangerous empires aren't always the loudest ones. They're the ones you don't notice, until it's already too late.